Hey, folks, welcome back to the podcast. Today's episode is about delivering precision nutrition and supplementation to you, dear audience, based on your biomarkers at an incredibly affordable price and being part of a really cool project. So my guest today, or startup really, my guest today is the CEO and co-founder of a company called Elo Health. His name is Ari Tulla. And Ari is no stranger to the startup world. Ari is also the man behind bestdoctor.com, which is now part of Quest Analytics, I believe. And that I'm not going to describe what that is because that's not what the podcast is about. What the podcast is about is Elo Health. And Elo Health is Ari's play for getting people connected back to the idea that food is medicine. And if you want to get better, you want to perform better, and you want to reach your goals, then getting your diet dialed into what you need is the first step. And the way that his company works is they are going to look at your blood, basically run labs for you once every quarter. They're going to hook you up with a dietitian. They're going to obviously have you fill out an extensive health questionnaire. And every quarter, you are going to, based on your goals, based on your labs, and based on your consult with your dietitian, they are going to tweak your supplementation and your nutrition. And you are going to receive customized supplement packs that are going to provide you with exactly what you need. And then every quarter, you're going to repeat the process and everything's going to get tweaked. It's a brilliant idea. Not only that, it's beautifully executed. They're tapping into the power of AI. Ari has an extensive background in that area, and he brings all of the forces to bear of his lifetime of knowledge and learning. It's a great interview. He's got very lofty goals for humanity to help us all function better, feel better, and be healthier. And he's bringing it in at an incredibly affordable price. So for the next, I think they've already got over 1,000 people enrolled. Until they get up to 10,000 people, you're going to be able to get your first month free if you use promo code NAT. And the first month will include your labs. It will include that blood work and your recommendations. So it's a screaming opportunity for you to get in on the ground. And then moving forward, it's $99 a month subscription. And for that, you get your regular blood work every quarter. You get assigned a dietitian. You get some coaching, you get your customized supplementation and personalized nutrition recommendations. It's pretty cool. And Ari is an incredibly cool guy. Not only is he incredibly smart and an angel investor himself, but he's also an avid outdoorsman. This man really has a good handle on this whole life-work balance. He's a really interesting person to talk to. I'm really grateful that I was introduced to him and that I got him on the podcast. So without further ado, I'm going to let you get to the podcast. If you're interested in looking into the service, it's Elo, ELO.health. And your promo code to get that first month free is NAT, N-A-T. We kept it super simple. If you're looking to connect with me, natnidham.com or the Optimizing Superhuman Performance Group on Facebook, or Natalie Nidham on Instagram. If you get value from this episode, or if you know anybody else who would get value from this episode, then please make sure that you share it out with your friends, your networks, your family, anybody else who you think would learn something useful from it. And of course, we always appreciate your reviews and your comments. So thank you so much for being here. Totally appreciate you guys. I keep saying it. I'm going to keep saying it, and enjoy the show. Hey, folks, just a little bit of housekeeping before we launch into the episode. Please remember that all of the information provided in these podcasts is for information purposes only. We are never offering treatments, cures, whatever, for any kind of disease or medical condition. Anything you hear about here is going to be intriguing. There's some research around it, but make sure that you check with your medical provider before you go off and do any of this stuff for yourself. All right. So, enjoy the episode. And also, if you're looking to connect with me for any reason, with your comments, questions, whatever it may be. You can reach me through my website, which is natnidham.com, or you can find me on Facebook in the Optimizing Superhuman Performance group, or on MeWe in the Biohacking Superhuman Performance group. And of course, you can also follow me on Instagram, which is at Natalie Nidham. Natalie is with an H between the T and the A, the second A. So thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you guys. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to the show, Ari Tulla. It is a pleasure to have you here today.
Hey, Natalie, wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's been a while since we spoke, but I'm really excited about this conversation because the first time we talked, I was kind of like, oh yeah, who is this guy that's got some nutrition company, blah, blah, blah. And then I spent 3 minutes talking to you. I was like, oh my God, you're so, A, you've got an incredible story and background, and B, I'm really excited about what you guys are going to be doing. So this is going to be a great conversation. So Ari, I think that the way that I really like to start the podcast, as my listeners know, is we love to learn a little bit about you and how you got to be where you are right now. And you've got such a varied background in business and all different things. Maybe you'd like to give us a little snapshot into who Ari is and how you got to why you're doing what you're doing today. Never mind how you got here. It's why you chose this as your next project.
Happy to get in deep. And I think one thing you said a lot about is that I'm talking a lot about why. To me, that matters a lot more than what.
Yeah.
We have plenty of people who talk about the what all day long, but we don't really go deep in why. And that in the end is the what matters the most. So I'm from Finland. That's why I speak at times funny. I've been living in California for 15 years. And I got really lucky early on in my childhood. I got to the computers as one of the first people at that time. So in 80s, I got my first PC, the big box that didn't do nothing. But then later on, I was able to get connected to the internet. So my father was very progressive and he used computers, and he was a research scientist who needed that for work. I needed for the games and the fun. Mm-hmm. So I was lucky enough to get one. And in high school, actually, I was connected to the internet for the first time. That was in a very early phase. Think about like 93, 94 or something like that, when the www there was no web browsers, there was no web pages. It was like copper and the BBS boxes and some games that, very, very few people were playing. And I got into that early. And since that moment, I've been working with the tech, and I've been very passionate about different things. And I've been a big believer of the open internet and, being able to move data in a different way and open horizons. And I mean, for me at that time in high school, the world became a very small place. I started to communicate with people around the world, and I became one of the early digital natives at that time. And I spent many years playing video games, and then later that kind of became my profession. So after I graduated, I went to work in a startup first, and then I ended up in Nokia for many years. And that was the time when Nokia was the biggest cell phone company, invented the mobile phone, and we kind of invented the smartphone. So I was in a team back days that built the first smartphone, the first phone with the videos and the photos and all these things. So I kind of saw the world transform, and I was living at the time when the iPhone came. I had just moved to the Bay Area, and I saw the iPhone come out, the Android come out, and all this shift that it has had to human life, and in good and bad. I mean, many of us are addicted to our phones today, but I mean, nobody can disagree that the smartphone has been the biggest invention I think humans have ever made from the impact perspective, equally big as a wheel or oil and stuff like that. It really changed how we live our life. Yeah. And I had another tangent. I was working on this tech for a long time, and at the same time I had a lot of health issues in my family. So my wife had a thyroid tumor a long time ago, 20 years ago, that was taken out with no life-threatening consequences, but it led into a lot of health problems, autoimmune diseases, hormonal imbalances, things that are unknowns. still today. So we worked from last 20 years every day and thought about health, and we thought about nutrition, and it taught us a lot. And that became my profession later. In about 11 years ago, I started a company called Better Doctor, a doctor finder service that helped people to find a doctor. And that grew to be fairly big service in the US. That led us to sell the company at some point. Then I was running another company that is building the doctor networks for the whole industry, like all the health insurance companies, all the hospital systems, and the government. That company basically created the doctor networks. And the last few years now, I've been working on this next thing that is Elo. We are trying to make nutrition smarter. And I was back in the days, working at Nokia, and it's kind of funny. I didn't think about this, of course, then, but I bet we were talking about the mobile computer being a smartphone. I bet there on the wall there was a word smartphone somewhere, but we ended up calling it mobile computer. And
which is what they are, really.
Yeah, but smartphone was a much better name in the end, and that became what stuck. So now I'm trying to at Elo create a new category called smart nutrition, and making our nutrition to be as smart as our phones and our watches and our cars and homes can be today. So that's a long-winded answer, but I love tech. I'm deeply passionate about nutrition and human health, and I'm feeling middle-aged. So every day I think about how can I live a great life? What would the next 4 years look for me? And I think about that.
Yeah, no, that's I mean, and I love your point about why as opposed to what, right? Because the why is it's the heart and soul of the what. And that's what really is going to drive it to the next level. So I know that, you picked nutrition, and it's interesting because, you were involved in this, you built this engine on helping people to find a doctor, which in and of itself would be hugely valuable. And yet, doctors very often will dismiss nutrition as a lever to pull, if you will, when they're working on people with optimizing their health. So why did you pick nutrition? Like, you could have picked anything to target, right? I mean, you've got a particular skill set in this tech world that allows you to turn your lens to any number of things and kind of wield your power on it. So you pick something that's relatively, a lot of doctors would either dismiss or call as basic. I, of course, agree with you that it's where everything begins. I'm on the same page. I'm right there with you. But why don't we talk a little bit? Like, why did you pick nutrition out of all the things you could have picked?
I've been in different industries. I think I've been building a business in 6 different type of industries in my life, and I love the challenge. And I think in heart, I'm probably more builder. I'm the one who loves to build things. I love to build Legos, and it really like it's almost like goosebump when I look at my son, who's 7 years old today, and he is such a builder, and I'm like, is that me at age 7? You don't remember yourself, but looking at his lust of new information and creativity, it's immense. I mean, he just can build like 4 hours, and he comes up with a spaceship that nobody knew could exist. Wow. Nice. And he's trying to build his own company now with my help, and he's 7 years old. So I'm so proud about seeing that, and I think I was maybe the same. So I was always very curious about these things, and I've been, because you've done this a few times, and you really understand that building a company or building anything new, like building a great podcast, you need to be passionate about it. There has to be love involved, and if building a company can take, and usually takes about 10 years to build a good company. I mean, 10 years is a long time to do something, and most of us get bored in 2 years. But you have, if you don't care about it enough, you're not going to be able to pursue, have the grit and the stamina to go all the way. And that's why I always think about the why so much. And I talk to a lot of young entrepreneurs, and they ask my advice, and always ask about it, like, where do you see this going in 10 years? Like, what do you think can happen? And is that the place you want to be and you want to go? And often people say, no, not really. I mean, I don't really care about this so much, because now often entrepreneurship is such a thing that happened, like, with Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, and it's more like almost like the modern rock stars and entrepreneurs are the same. And a lot of young audience is basically it's like a fandom around entrepreneurs. And I mean, to me, that's not the right reason. Is not to try to make money quickly or try to become famous. I'm thinking the real impact is that you can have a positive impact on the world around you. And then your mom will be proud about you, and that means more than anything. Like day after Mother's Day, I mean, making moms proud is a very important job for a son, especially, I think. And so I think for me, it really happened all when my wife had health issues, and we were super healthy, athletic, young people in love, and suddenly out of the blue, something happens that is really scary, and something that I had never even thought about as a 20-some-year-old young kid. And when it happened, we had to go there and think about it. And we realized that food and nutrition was one of the key culprits that was able to help my wife to get better. And we were in a position that we probably could have never gotten pregnant with the issues we had. And we fixed that as well at the same time. So what we did was that if you have an autoimmune disease, it's often inflammation that is making your body kind of chronic inflammation is the key problem almost. So how can you lower the inflammation was the mantra. And we learned a lot from the doctors we worked with and Western, Eastern medicine. We read a lot about it. And we realized that going to low carb diet, basically no meat, no wheat, no grains, no sugar, that type of diet, that did help us to lower the inflammation, and then the body can actually heal itself. And that, I think, is still a very compelling diet or focus on nutrition that would help most people, because a lot of the things like not only the autoimmune diseases, but also diabetes, type 2 diabetes, many of the heart diseases, there's inflammation in play that is making the body not heal itself or get sicker all the time. So over the years, I just became a believer that food is medicine, and I saw it being medicine. And that was the thing that I had back of my mind always. And we've been following that diet for almost, 19 years now with my wife. And we feel great, and we look much healthier than most other people in our peers. So for me, when you look for new idea, when you look for new company, for example, it's all about what do you know that most people around you don't know. Like, what is something I know and I believe that most other people don't know or believe it? And then you are onto something great if that thing really is real. And I think we both agree that food as medicine, is a great concept. I think helping people to find the right nutrition for themselves is going to be immensely helpful. And it's immensely difficult today because people are so confused about what to eat, what to drink, how to live their life today.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's interesting that I agree with you 100% on the wheat, grains, and sugar. I'm a little less sold on the no meat as a requirement to lower inflammation, because I think there's a lot more nuance to that point than we know. And it's also, there's some individuality that's involved in that. But having said that, getting people to clean up their diet and starting to simplify the message so that more people can get on board is what's, I think, going to be the real key for broader success, right? We both move in circles of, biohacking people that are very tuned in, if you will, to their health. And it's an easy sell. I think where it starts to get really tough is when you get into more of the general population, where they are utterly confused as to what the heck they should be eating anymore. Like it is really, it's a little heartbreaking. I find that, you've got so many different, stakeholders in the nutrition field that are trying to push their own agenda, and very often at the expense of the general population. And so, I just think that are you within your plan with Elo? Is it to kind of direct everybody into a certain direction, or are you allowing for a certain amount of variation depending on the individual? Like, I'm just trying to get a sense, because I know that, I mean, when we were talking earlier, I mean, there's some pretty crazy statistics out there about what healthcare is costing America, and frankly, even in Canada and any country that cares to have a healthcare line on the budget. It's overwhelming how much countries are paying for healthcare, and frankly, or even how much people are paying for healthcare. Yeah. And so, trying to go at that and realizing like the different stakeholders, like the drug companies, the big food companies, the governments, like trying to take that on and re-educate a population of people who don't get told by their doctors, well, you're pre-diabetic, but if you were to change your diet within 6 months to a year, we could pull you back from the brink and you could be perfectly not diabetic, kind of thing.
I think you're putting a really big question on the table here. But before I get to the macro a little bit, let's say that, I have been vegan. I've been a vegetarian for a long time, and my wife, started to actually eat meat years ago because her carnitine level were super low, and carnitine is you can only get it from the meat almost, or you can eat pills. And now having kids who are growing up, and they clearly do like some type of meat. So we do eat meat now, maybe once or twice a week, and we do eat fish. So I mean, we went back to that because I felt unfair, to kind of dictate a diet for my kids in a way that was not maybe as broad as possible. Let them make their own decisions. But all the meat we eat is very sustainable. It is very local and very clean. So and of course that meat is very expensive. But you can eat meat that is something that will not destroy the planet or your health. So I think that's a question that I get a lot from people. And Elo at Elo, we are agnostic in a way. We don't believe in diets. So we rather say that diet is an artificial way of limiting your options to make it easy for our reptile brain. That is pretty simple. So it doesn't need to be like that if you can have like a higher power, like AI, for example, helping us to make the right decisions. Because often the times we eat and we buy food when we are hungry. And go to a grocery store when you're hungry, you buy stuff that you definitely don't need, that you crave at that very moment. But let me take a step back onto the macro. And so I'm from Finland, and in Finland, we have a system a lot like in Canada that is government mainly paid. You don't worry about healthcare because you will get covered. You will get healthcare when you get sick, and that's just the big I think difference to US, that you need to worry about healthcare. If you have no health plan, you can be a Medicare, Medicaid, but you never are certain about your health. You leave a job to become an entrepreneur. You become a self-employed. You are like, oh, how do I get my healthcare for my family? And it can be very, very expensive. But think about this for a second. In the world today, we spend about $10 trillion in healthcare annually. 10 trillion, 10,000 billion, big number. We don't need to care about that, but
a huge number.
What we need to know is that in the US today, we are spending over 4 trillion a year. 40% of the total global healthcare spending is spent in the US. Wow. Okay. Do you know how many people we have in the US today? We have 4%. So 4% of people in the world are spending 40% of the healthcare cost today. What are we getting with that money? We are getting life expectancy that is around the 40, 50 in the world. We are getting child mortality that is way higher than almost any other Western nation. We are getting massive obesity epidemic, where 80% of people today are overweight. We are very, very close of adult Americans that 50% of people are going to be obese.
Wow.
There's no numbers like this in any other country in the world. And think about it, $4+ trillion a year. Less than 3% of that money is spent on preventative care.
Yeah.
And the preventative care in the US, it doesn't mean nutrition counseling. It doesn't mean helping you to understand more. It means vaccinations. It means mammographies. And those are important things, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But there's very little money spent, if any, today on really helping people to prevent. And at the same time, we have a massive food lobby organizations that are, lobbying for, the corn subsidies, the soy subsidies, and so forth. There is no ability on any state in the nation to do like a sugar tax that is commonly done in the Western countries elsewhere, and even in Asia and many countries now. If you tax the sugar, you tax the high fructose corn syrup, people will use the less. I mean, we know how it worked for tobacco. Sure. These are the new tobaccos that are taking place today. We should basically do something to lower the higher the price of the highly processed food that is clearly causing a massive cost in the back end.
And subsidize fresh food. I mean, instead of subsidizing corn, subsidize, I don't know, vegetables, fruits.
Yeah, and then even there's like things then happen because of this mess we are getting into ourselves. Like, yes, we produce food super efficiently, and the food is actually lower. Of course, we now have inflation happening, and we complain about food going higher, but the food is now a smaller percentage of our household income than it has ever been in the history of man. And in the US, I think because we have a really pretty high household income, the cost of food is minimal. And I think in my family, we spend, 5 to 10 times more on food than an average family would.
Yeah,
because we believe that, we want to, we rather spend the money on there than in medicine later. And that's the thing. And I think I don't have the exact calculation, but I've been talking to many, many people smarter than me. And they all agree that, it's roughly around $1 invested in the good food will take $3 out of the healthcare cost. So think about it. If you take the food industry, the biggest in the world, by the way, in the US, we spend about 10 trillion on food and nutrition overall. And then you combine it with the health industry. Those are the two biggest things we have, way bigger than oil, way bigger than cars or anything else. And you combine them somehow, and you start to not just, make them fight each other and having the other one causing illness, the food causing illness. But what if they could work together in conjunction? And if the food could become medicine, and we could have doctors prescribe better nutrition for people who are becoming type 2 diabetic or are type 2 diabetic, that world is what I want to see. And that's the world I'm fighting every day to make reality.
For sure. Yeah, no, that's amazing. I mean, I think that just marrying those two spheres all of a sudden takes a lot of problems off the table. And I think that when healthier people think better, they make better decisions. They're better citizens of the world. They're happier, quite apart from anything else. I think the tricky thing is making it accessible to more people. And I think what's interesting about that is that may be where AI comes in a little bit, because there's no doubt that people in higher economic strata who have a better education, and it's not a gimme, but they have a better chance of making the decisions we make and exercising them than someone who's, in a different economic strata, different education strata. And they're the people that are really suffering the most right now. I mean, the people in our world that are suffering it's almost like a conscious decision. I was coaching a guy once, and, he was a mess. And this was a businessman. He had no end of money and insisted on drinking a bottle of wine every single day. And I said to him, I said, and he was really sick. He was going to not live a long time. Like, he had a lot of health issues. And I remember having a conversation with him one day and saying, look, like, isn't it worth seeing your grandchildren grow up? Like, isn't it worth being able to go out and play with them, or move without pain, or sleep through the night, or wake up feeling good in the morning? And he looked at me and he said, if I can't have my wine, what's the point? And I kind of went, all right, well, I guess our work here is done. So I mean, there's not much you can say to that, right? But anyway, that's a group of people that have the resources to make these decisions. I think the biggest challenge that we're going to face as a society is how do we help the people that are not in this privileged world to get access, or at least more of them, or at least get into some of the lower strata. I mean, that's a bigger question, obviously. I'm not asking you to solve the problems of the world, but at the same time, it's how do we help to bring more people in so that eventually maybe it does become affordable, or will you get buy-in from a government who says, wow, this is really working. Maybe we should subsidize that instead of corn and soy. Like, here's an idea.
There's a lot of things happening in this direction. But let me maybe take a step back and talk about this in a way that this may be a controversial topic, but I have a feeling that most people are sick, and you say this every day when you help people. I mean, most people are clearly not feeling good, and you have seen, and I'm seeing it now with Elo, that when you help people to find and get better nutrition, and when they start to feel better, you are building this massively powerful positive feedback loop. That because when you start feeling better, you're going to not go back into the habits of old that made you feel sick. And of course, alcohol, drugs, opioids, cell phones, sex. There are a lot of addictions in the world that when you get addicted, it's a really difficult thing to solve. And we don't talk, I think, enough about the fact that food can be an addiction as well.
For sure.
And a lot of the foods that we are creating now in the lab, I often use the example of Doritos. I have a book here, The Dorito Effect. I read it recently. And what an amazing story where, this company has created a completely perfect nutrition drug for people. Yeah. Everybody listening, pick up a Dorito bag, only one. Have one of them and try to stop after one. Yeah. It's almost impossible. And I have willpower more than the most, I believe. But I'm going to have one. I'm going to eat the whole bag. It is so addictive drug, optimized for the maximum feel in your brain. And that's what people are addicted to. And then I think this notion that, as a society, there's a lot of very negative feelings about, obesity, about overweight. A lot of people are kind of blaming the people who are getting sick. And it's really something that I hate to see when it happens, where people are talking about, hey, you're obese because of your bad actions or not having the willpower. I think this is something we should stop immediately as a society and agree that obesity is a sickness and it is an addiction that has to be treated like addiction. I mean, you're not going to tell a heroin addict that stop because you don't have willpower. We know now that it's almost impossible to stop because it gets sucked. You get sucked into the community that people like that, and then you hang out there and you can't get out. You're like in a dead end. And I think the same thing applies to poor nutrition. As a society, we allow advertising to happen. Every ad on the Super Bowl is about food you should probably never eat. Every end of the aisle in a grocery store is food that you should never buy. So how can we basically be conscious citizens if we are being bombarded by everybody who talks about us on ads is something that we should not eat? But how can it be legal? You're like, if it's legal, it should be fine. And then you end up doing it anyway. And we even do it for the kids. Sure. 5-year-olds in school are getting food created by the Yummy Group or McDonald's. I mean, that wasn't the case, 40 years ago, 30 years ago. Why did we do that? That's not the case, by the way, any other place in the world. Like, you don't give the big food ownership of the school lunches and addict the kids at that age. So when I selected the schools for my kids, these are schools where the food is made at the school. Yeah. And even the kids are involved in making the food because you have to understand it. And I think the last point that is really, I think, controversial, but I want to say it here because you started kind of bringing it up, but I have a feeling that, we can't address the big things like global warming until we have healed ourselves. If you have low self-confidence, you feel bad every morning when you wake up because you are getting sick metabolically, how can you think about, an existential threat like global warming and act upon it? So I don't think we as a society won't care about, our nature and environment until we can feel good about ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's why it's a fundamentally important, I think, to talk about these topics and find solutions. And I don't really have a solution in your point about the fact that people who are sickest, I think, are the ones who are buying the food that is the lowest cost and easiest to access.
Mm-hmm.
And that access is, of course, the fast food and the processed food, and the prices, as I said, are super low today, lower than they've ever been in the history of man. So in a way, I mean, it's very difficult to take the good food and bring it to the people who don't maybe have the money or the time or the will to do it yet. So it has to be somehow subsidized, and it will happen over the time.
Yeah.
But every new idea will always start from the top, in a way, that the people who are willing to try and who have the wealth and the money to do it, those are the people who try the first things. Like the computer was first bought by the people who needed it and so forth, not everybody. But slowly it will trickle down to everybody. So I'm hopeful that in the next decade, we're going to see a renaissance, and it will look very different than today.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that's so true. And you make so many good points, like the hyper palatability of foods is really what you're referring to here. But and it's funny because I've met people who are like, there are organizations. I volunteered for an organization locally here called The Stop, and their mandate is to bring food knowledge and security to the most vulnerable people in our society. And so that work is being done. But, to your point, it will start at, some of these big movements will start at the top and trickle down, just like everybody has a cell phone now. Even people who don't have a job or don't have money, they somehow have a cell phone. So it's got to start somewhere. And I think that, what's really interesting about the project, about your new venture now, which is basically taking off, is now bringing technology, bringing AI into the picture so that you can kind of leverage it and help people to make these better decisions about their own food. And AI in and of itself maybe helps to bring the cost down over time, because now you're not having to deal with a high priced doctor or whatever the case may be, who may or may not be interested in sharing this information with you.
I think you make a great point that it's by adding technology into things, we can likely lower the cost of the whole system. Because I mean, we all know healthcare system, when you go there, you still meet the doctor face to face. Maybe you can do a telemedicine today, and that telemedicine already made it. Think about how much more efficient it is. You don't need to travel to a doctor office, take absence of the work, put your kids in the daycare or extend the daycare or whatever. I mean, that's just a lot of, hassle. And you don't often need to meet with the doctor face to face. They're not going to touch you. I mean, you are talking face to face for 5 minutes and then you're going to be gone. So it is very, very inefficient system today. And at Elo, I think what we're really trying to do is to bring some type of measurement in nutrition. I'm a massive believer on this idea that if you can measure something, you can improve it. If you can't measure it, like, how could you improve? Like, you don't know where to start. And now I think, some people use a scale, your weight or BMI as a measurement. I mean, it's one measurement, but, you're looking back rear mirror, like maybe month in the past, because, your weight is not coming today. You eat bad food today, you're not going to see it tomorrow. It will take time to accumulate. So it's a really poor measurement. And we are now thinking every day, like, what can we measure? What are the meaningful things about our body that we are getting as measurements every day? And of course, there has been a huge shift in the world in the last, maybe 5 years, where 3 things happened that is enabling companies like Elo to work. So we are trying to make nutrition smart by collecting data about your body. So we do it by collecting your blood sample at home and then testing it in the lab. So we make it convenient. You can prick your finger at home. We need something like 5-6 drops of blood. We can test 12 different biomarkers from it.
Wow.
Think about like lipid panel, the cholesterols, the diabetes marker, vitamins, minerals, and inflammation. So getting a pretty good view of, where you are. At the same time, if you want, and if you have wearable devices like, Apple Watch or Whoop or Fitbit or Aura or even the scale at home, you can connect those devices into your Apple Health if you have an Apple device, and then you can share that data if you want. It's all up to you with Elo. And then we're also getting a view on your daily, like recovery, your sleep, and also your activity. Suddenly you have a view of your health from the inside, your blood. Then you have a view outside of what are you doing daily. Are you walking? Are you training? Are you sleeping well? And then we of course do like a pretty extensive questionnaire. So that gives us a view of you that is a far more comprehensive view than your doctor would. Your doctor will not have any of that data, and they don't even know what to do about it. And that's where I think, where the technology and even AI or machine learning comes into play, that you can understand, like I can understand what type of person Ari is, what type of person Natalie is. Like, we are probably quite different, and we likely will need a different type of intervention or different type of plan for nutrition. So what we did, we basically got the data together. We created a system that, we have like a backend system for our coaches who are dietitians, and they can see all the data like nicely put together. And then the AI is giving recommendation. And then we have the dietitians who will take a look at it and make sure it's right for you. Mm-hmm. And then they go over that in the beginning, over the Zoom call for half an hour, 45 minutes, to talk about data about you, your habits, your goals, where do you want to go. And then they release the plan. And the first thing we do today is we are shipping monthly supplements based on your blood work, your goals, and your overall health. And then we track that every 90 days. So we do the blood testing every 90 days. If you have connected your wearable device data, you can get your sleep data, recovery data every day, activity data every day. So it becomes like a learning system.
Yeah.
And I don't have a full answer, or Elo doesn't have like, what do you need? We will learn together. And because have you been doing that before? Have you, tested yourself and then make the best assessment based on latest science? Everything we do is based on clinical trials done to humans. We have thousands of them in the system today. And those are defining what do you get and how much and how long. And then we see the outcomes. Maybe it wasn't right for you. Then we tweak the system and optimize. So it's really like a learning system, and that we work together with every member to help them to get to the better health.
That's amazing. So how often do the members work with the dietitian? Is it when they do their labs? Kind of, I think you had said to me earlier, you do the blood work every 90 days, which is amazing, because that's that window of time that you need to change something and to start to see it reflected both in the blood work and even in most likely in how people are feeling. So do people meet with the dietitian every 90 days to adjust their plan, kind of thing? And so you send supplements out, which is, again, amazing, because it takes we all and every client I've ever worked with has the cupboard or the drawer.
So I think you make a really, really interesting point, because I never had supplements before I started the company. Okay. I thought that nutrition and the good food is enough. And I realized that I had my vitamin D was super low. I actually had my HDL was pretty low as well. And I was thinking I'm all going to be green, and I wasn't all green. I was red on the vitamin D. And of course, my team immediately wanted to help me on that, and they built me my own regimen on vitamin D. And I was starting to eat supplementation. My values didn't go up at all, and they were like, "Huh, that's interesting." And then I had been sequenced before, DNA sequenced by 23andMe and a few other places. And they look at the data from there, my team, and they said that, hey, you have 2 mutations that are making you a poor metabolizer of vitamin D. And then I had to be supplemented. I think I did 10,000 IU of vitamin D to be able to start getting it up. And it took a year and a half to get to optimal level.
Wow.
And now I feel different after that. So I became a believer even in this micro optimization. So we do testing every 90 days because I think you rightly say that that's the right time to have an impact. You can't modify your A1C, the diabetes marker, in a week. It's impossible. It moves slower. But the cool thing, really, I think, is that we are giving access to you as a member to the codes via the app every day. So the app is the centerpiece of the Elo service. Everything is in the app. There's a knowledge base, hundreds of articles about health, and you can talk with your codes every day. So you have met them in the beginning, and you can meet them every 90 days. Wow. And then you can ask a question. You can take a photo of a new product that you are thinking of buying. You can take a photo of your food and asking about it. And some people use it almost daily. Many people use it weekly. Some people use it monthly. It depends on a person. Like some people need more help than others. But some people are really asking like a weekly meal plan. I'm eating this way. What do you say? Is it good or bad?
Wow. That's impressive. Like that's a lot of support. That's really impressive. So in terms of the supplementation, do you keep it basically, is it basic supplements? Like these aren't like you're not going to get into the NADs or the NMNs or the more optimization stuff. Are you at this point, because I'm sure Elo will evolve and change as time goes on, this is your starting position and no doubt it will evolve over time. But at this stage of the game right now, is it designed really to take care of the foundation? So making sure that, the blood sugar balance, the blood sugar regulation is good, that the blood lipids are balanced where they need to be, and then the basic nutrients, micronutrients are being addressed, kind of thing.
We selected the first product we came to market, and we will have many more things coming in the future. I can't talk about them yet. Happy to come again in a few months to talk about all the new cool stuff. But
for sure,
we selected the supplements for the reason that everybody has the cabinet. Everybody has pill bottles left and right. 100+ million Americans today eat supplements, pills every day. 100 million of them don't know if they eat the right things, or they have any impact on their health. So it's basically a placebo. And many of us are listening to podcasts and influencers or whoever, and they might talk about the product that they are using. It might be a really, really great product for them, but it might not be at all the right one for you. That's how we normally get these ideas. And then we order something online and we get one bottle, and then we eat, maybe have half them and leave it into the cabinet. That's how people
operate.
Cupboard.
It's the cupboard.
It's the cupboard. So we were picking, like, the first category we wanted to pick is that, can we make this experience 10 times better? Can we make it automatic? Can we make it such that it comes into you in a daily packet that has your name on?
Brilliant.
And that daily packet has all the supplements you need for that day. We can tell you the time, and you can optimize the time for yourself. You will get notified on the phone, on the Apple Watch, when to take your supplements. So you build a habit. We track the habit, by the way. Your coach is seeing, have you taken the supplements or not? If you haven't, they will connect to you and say, what's wrong? What's the problem? Let's talk about it. So that's happening to every member at Elo. And that makes it, because if you believe in supplements, I can tell you 100% certainty that if they are sitting in the cupboard and you don't have them, they will not help you.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I keep telling people that. I'm like, you're just about there, but the money is in actually putting the thing in your mouth.
Exactly. And so I'm a skeptic in this area a little bit, and because I have never taken supplements before. So I went to my team, and we have a really good science team working on Elo, and they basically took all the human trial research that have been done to any type of ingredient in nutrition. So think about the vitamins, the minerals, and also some herbal, like, green tea extract, resveratrol, and so forth. So we have all the research that is now published. It's part of the Elo algorithm, the AI. And all of the products we today have available, there is real clinical evidence of some kind. We took away a lot of products. Maybe we have 61 active ingredients today. So it's a pretty wide array. From the minerals, think about like a zinc or magnesium, the probiotics, to all the different vitamins, and we often combine them in a way that you get like the best type of a pill that has maybe, let's say, magnesium and vitamin D or whatever, like making them in a way that they work together in a right way. And your question is really good about the more longevity related products that are becoming really, really popular lately. So if I look at the goals Elo members have, we have some thousands of people who came into the system, and the number one goal people have today is weight. I mean, because we know it's a massive problem. We already talked about that. The second goal we have is energy.
Yeah.
People want to have more energy. They want to be performant in, mainly like brain energy. And then third is longevity. There's a lot of people who are looking at that, and these are maybe a bit more like biohacker type of people.
Yeah.
And we are right now talking with many of the new companies in the space who have NMN and NR and NAD, and we will bring those in sometime this year. So my goal is that you as a member, you do your own research, and you have products that you really care about and you believe in. Yeah. I want to find the best ones for those categories. So I'm working with many of the companies that we all know that are the up and coming, really known brands, and we are trying to get their product into the Elo pack.
Oh, interesting.
So you can, and we already have one product we added recently. Is called Evi. It's a really interesting new product from a company called Evi. It's a cholesterol reducing omega-3 product. And it's made from algae in the US.
Nice.
And there's a lot of new evidence coming out of that product. So we added into Elo packets as our vegan omega-3 product.
Nice.
And it's branded as EV if you get the pack. So my pack says, EV vegan omega-3 here. So that's the idea that, there might be some products that you actually know a lot about already that come with the Elo product going forward.
Oh, so that's really, so you're not reinventing the wheel here. You're definitely, I mean, in some cases you might be using a generic, but in other cases you're actually using branded products from other companies that have done the deep research, as it were, to optimize the nutrient.
Some of them are like amazingly, some of the companies raised hundreds of millions of dollars and research new science in the space, and the science often is very poor. Like, I'm not claiming that all the science we have today backing our algorithm is all sound, because there are, as I said, 3,500 about studies done to humans. Many of them are very small n, think about like 50 people, and who paid the study? It might have been the company creating the ingredient who paid the study.
Yeah.
So I think there are a lot of studies in nutrition today that are never published because the outcomes were not what they expected. So what we do at Elo, you and me, we sign up to Elo, we get, let's say, the EV omega-3 product. There are studies already done with that product that show a certain type of reduction on certain values. Okay, we will be N of 1 and N of 2 in that study, and we run it again at Elo.
Yeah.
We see if it works. You will see if it works, as we do. So it's like an ongoing, growing understanding of the impact of these things.
Yeah.
And by the way, our studies now, some of them like this EV, I think we are now running it with hundreds of people already. So that's far more than anyone else has done before.
Yeah. So you're adding to the database of knowledge, essentially. That's really interesting. I love that.
And at the same time, I want to say that, all this data is owned by you. Yes, we do use it as part of, creating the better algorithm, but we are not selling our data to anyone. There's no pharma or anyone who is getting this data. So we are keeping your data super safe, because also we know that, this is the most important information about your body, your blood data, for example. I mean, of course, your DNA, we can probably clone you if you get your DNA, but that data, you should really think about as the most important information about you. We are worried about, Google looking at our browsing history. That's, of course, important, but your health data is even more important.
For sure. I'm glad you brought that up, actually. So actually, you brought up genetics, and I'm curious, do you think you'll ever integrate individual people's genetics into your algorithm? Because how, like you said, why were your vitamin D levels not coming up? It's because you have certain polymorphisms that make it harder for your body to produce D. Then, or you need to take it in a different way, or there's some people will do better with sublingual B12 versus oral B12 and vice versa. So is there a plan eventually to kind of weave individual genetics into the algorithm? Because that might actually strengthen in some ways, or fine tune, if you will, some of the supplement recommendations that you'll be making, and even to some degree, nutrition recommendations. When you look at, some people, saturated fat, is a beautiful thing for them, and other people, saturated fat is going to drive inflammation in their body, and it can take a lot of the guesswork out of it in a way.
Well, I think, there's an area that you probably know more than I do. And, when we talk about sequencing your DNA in a simple array, like let's say 23andMe or Ancestry, it's a fairly limited amount of understanding you get from the DNA. But also, I think, we briefly talked earlier about epigenetics. That is a super interesting area. Yeah. Maybe the much more important in the end for nutrition than your normal DNA can be. So I think for the layman understanding, I think DNA is really a blueprint of who you are. It's the make of you, and it can give an insight on likelihood that you might have a problem, like in my case, the vitamin D metabolization. So the DNA told me that, I might have a problem. And then with Elo testing, we saw that I have a problem.
You have a problem, exactly.
So that SNP that we call in the DNA, that was on. And it could have also been off. I mean, we all have heard about Alzheimer's risk being analyzed by 23andMe. BRCA is another one, the breast cancer risk. And those are really, I don't know if we know yet the Alzheimer's risk being how real it is, but the BRCA we know is a very likelihood is high that you might have that if you have the DNA SNP in a certain way. So I'm looking at this in a way that you have about 75, 78 different things today we can learn from the normal, simple sequencing related to nutrition. And those are all going to be valuable findings. But I'm very, very opposed to the idea that there are companies today in the market telling you that, hey, we're going to sequence your DNA and then we tell you what to eat. It might be 50% or more wrong every time they do it, because they don't test and understand if you really have those traits in your body, because the DNA doesn't mean that you necessarily are that way. Your epigenetics are then defining if those are present in your body. So I believe we're going to be definitely adding, DNA at some point. And it's not really about because it's difficult or easy. It's mainly because today, if as many people who listen, they probably have done the sequencing, and you can learn a lot of cool stuff. I mean, it's really interesting. And you can, like, coffee metabolization, alcohol, all these things are super cool. But the problem I see there, and I would love to, elevate or open my arms and give a hug to the companies out there. Please open up the APIs. So the people listening, they could go and connect the DNA SNPs to companies like Elo easily. So today, what you have to do, you have to go to 23andMe, you have to sign up and log in, and you have to go through the hoops and download a file of data, and then you have to upload the file to another service. They used to have an API, and I know why they want to keep the data in themselves, because the business model they have. But it would be so much better if we would have open sharing of the DNA data. In a way, it would be secure. It's your data. But you could easily share it, because today I know that most people who want to do it, it would be too difficult for them to download the file, upload the file, and it's just clunky. And I built elegant user experiences, so I don't want to have anything clunky that not everybody can do.
You want a streamlined experience. But and I agree with you that I just want to bring up the point, like when I run on genetics for someone and it comes back with a report, we only talk about propensities. We never talk about this is what's expressing, like there's this one gene that and I know that it's got a lot of letters and numbers in it. It's the TAS something gene, and it's nicknamed the cookie jar gene. And people who have a certain expression of this gene, when they start to eat sugar, they can't stop. Like it's like a switch goes off in their brain and they literally cannot stop. And having now read a lot of different reports, what's interesting to me is I no longer tell people they have that gene until I've asked them the question, how do you do with sugar? Like, what's your relation? Because interestingly enough, even I've met some people who do have on paper this gene, they're homozygous A, so therefore they should have no self-control around sugar. These are people who actually there's another gene at play we don't know about that's offsetting it, which is a thing. Like there's tons of genes we don't even know they exist, never mind what they do. Or they themselves have have learned how to hack their own genetics. So it is, I mean, you bring up such a great point, because just because you carry a certain gene doesn't mean it's going to express. Although what I have found on the supplementation side is, when you're looking at pathways of how different things are metabolized, like melatonin, or you brought up caffeine, it's the same liver enzyme that processes those. You're either going to be a fast metabolizer or slow metabolizer, which will affect obviously how you handle whether it's caffeine or what kind of melatonin you should use or shouldn't use. So anyway, I find this stuff really interesting, and I do think it'll be fascinating to see how it evolves over time. And yeah, for sure. I mean, maybe there'll be one of those companies will join forces with you ultimately.
I think
and make it easy.
There's a couple of examples that I think came to my mind when you talked about the speed of metabolization. It's really interesting. My best man, I mean, my great friend, he was a swimmer all his youth, and he was this generation of swimmers that, in Finland they had this golden group of people who all went to Olympics and won many gold medals and stuff like that. And he was almost as good. And because all of the other ones were really strong on the long distances, he was made to be the sprinter. So his nickname was Sprinter. Yeah. And then I remember, he was sequenced some time ago, and he is absolutely not a sprinter at all.
Right?
Zero.
Isn't that amazing?
And he was tested. He went to this lab and they tested his muscle cells.
Yeah.
And they found out he is an amazing long distance athlete. And today he's doing triathlons, many of them a year, under 9 hours, almost 10 hours, whatever. But
wow.
He's like a top level athlete now in the age of 45. And what a wasted effort. He might have been the best, long distance swimmer in the world, but he never got the chance. So sometimes you learn these things. But why I say this is that, I mean, this may often sound to people complicated. We talk about AI, algorithms, we talk about DNA. There's a lot of stuff here that we know, all of us, a little bit. But when you want to go deep into this, it can get awfully complicated. And truthfully, I think if you combine all the data today we get from the human body, nobody knows what to do with it. It is so complicated.
Oh, you're so right.
We're just getting to we're scratching the surface. And one thing that we are, and I've been building a lot of different products in my past, and I always try to build the product that is giving value and being simple. I build products that I try to make beautiful and something that can really add value to you without adding more complexity in your life.
Yeah.
So we are more like reducing complexity, helping you to make the better decisions. And our only hope as a company is to gain your trust, so you can outsource some of the decision making to us that you would need to do otherwise yourself. And that's what we want to do at Elo, really kind of start gaining your trust and help you to now pick, let's say, give you more understanding of your blood biomarkers, your performance, so you can track it over time. If you see something going in the wrong direction, you might want to go to your doctor and talk about it. And the other point is that we want to make the supplementation routine something that, is there for real and impacting your health. If we don't make any impact on you, or if you don't need supplements, we're going to tell that to you.
Yeah. No,
and by the way, most people we have signing up today, they list all the supplements that they do today. They also list all the medications they do today. Many people have ongoing interference with the supplementation they do to the medication they do, because the doctors never ask about if you are supplementing or not. We built a system where we have all the medication known today and all the influence that they can have on the supplements and vice versa, and foods even. And we tell that automatically to people that, stop doing these supplements because they're going to interfere with your current medication. And that's been maybe one of the single biggest, most value we've been giving to people from the very beginning, because very few people knew about that.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I mean, that's such a great point, and it's so important. And I love that, with Elo, bringing clarity or helping people. And I think what you said is so interesting, because it's a journey over time. You're not saying just come and get your blood work done and we're going to tell you what to eat. It's more like, we're going to walk this path together. And we're going to direct you in a direction of nutrition and supplementation. And then let's check in again in 3 months and see how you're doing. And maybe we're going to have to adjust it. So you're not pretending to actually have all the answers. all you're doing is helping people to, there are biohackers in the world, and, I use the term loosely, but all of us in the health optimization space, some people are better at spreadsheets and keeping notes and keeping track of the stuff than others. But generally speaking, people are too busy and it's too confusing for them to do it on their own. So to be able to, as you said earlier, bring simplicity and elegance to this and help people along, I think that's a pretty incredible service.
Thank you. That's really, I think, really well summarized. And I hope, I mean, we call this, smart nutrition company. And we believe that, smart nutrition is something much greater than what we do today. And I would love to be able to help you with, I think, delivering nutrition, food even in the coming years. But, it takes time to build it and really get it right. And the smart nutrition, by the way, for us at Elo, it means three things. It means personalized. So every product is made for you based on your information, your biomarkers, your data, and they come in a pack that has your name on and so forth. It's also precise. It's always grounded on the latest science, and it's always transparent in a way that you will know as much as we do. If you have a question, we will tell you all the data we have. So, because there's so much more, there's so much ambiguity in this space. And lastly, what is, I think, the most interesting thing, the smart nutrition is proactive. It gets better over time because, as said, we know so much about you in the beginning, but we really start to know more once we have tested you a few times. And the more data we have about you, the better we know. If you have something that for example, you have a supplement, sometimes, some supplements don't work for some people.
Yeah.
You send a note to your coach. I'm feeling this way. Somebody, a common thing I think a lot about is like B vitamins. Like you start to have B vitamins for the first time, you are low on B. It takes some time for your body to metabolize those. So in the beginning, you might have P, P that looks a little bit more yellow than normally. That doesn't mean that you are sick. It doesn't mean that they're not working. It means that, your body is adjusting to this new regimen, and that maybe the over B is going out in the beginning, but you're gonna start to metabolize better over time. Or you might have stomach upset because of a probiotic we are giving to you in the beginning. So we will tell you and have a dialogue about it. Next month, we take the pill away, we change it, we optimize it. Even a case where, let's say, your biomarkers are starting to look good, we are changing the dosing automatically to get you the maintenance dosing. I mean, that's something that nobody is doing today. No. What if you are having, let's say, I'm a big believer of green tea. I haven't drunk coffee for 20 years. I have green tea in my pack. You shouldn't have green tea year round. You should take a 3-month cycle, then you take a month breather, then you continue. So that's what we do for a lot of herbal supplements. I don't think anyone is doing that today. Like if you have a cabinet, is somebody telling you not to do it for too long? So those are automatically inbuilt in the system. And what we did now with the COVID, and I'm not saying that we are helping people mitigate with COVID, but I'm just saying that vitamin D, for example, is an important factor.
Sure.
What we do automatically, if you are living in a northern hemisphere like you are, the winter comes, we're going to pump your vitamin D up automatically because you get less sunlight. Yeah. So those are happening without you even knowing about it. Yeah. So that's pretty cool in my mind, and that's the proactive approach. And just think about like what the proactive approach could be for food, when we could look at your weight, your recovery, your sleep. What if you help you to go intermittent fasting? We can look at your sleep quality, your weight. Like it becomes immensely powerful when you can when you be proactive about these things.
Yeah, no, I'm all in. You got to come to Canada.
Sorry,
maybe I'm in the States often enough that I can actually pull this off.
No, I mean, like we are. Like, this all sounds, it's all doable. It may sound like science fiction a bit. We take blood work and then we deliver you nutrition that is made for you. It sounds a bit of science fiction, but it's a really pretty interesting in a way that just the blood testing today. In the US, even many states have different regulations. So we've been now working with our labs and partners to get the New York live.
Good luck with that.
It's taken 2 years already, and I finally have a little bit green light at the end of the tunnel that, we might finally get it done this year, but it's like every state is different. So there's a lot of requirement, and like it feels automatic when you sign up to Elo, but every blood test we are sending to our members, a doctor has, prescribed them. There's a lot of stuff happening at the back end that you can even do these type of things today.
For sure. No, I mean, it's definitely, you've taken on a big nut, but as you said earlier, you like to create things that at least on the front end look elegant and simple. And it sounds like you're doing exactly that. So that's pretty exciting. I'm really excited to see, all the new, I'm excited to see it at work, but I'm also excited to see, as you alluded to, the other things coming down the pipes, because you're really still you've really laid a solid foundation here. So there's lots of places you can go to with that. Okay, so why don't we tell people a little bit about how they can find Elo and sign up, or what's involved, or is there anything we left off the table that you think we should cover?
I think we covered a lot of things, and I think we can maybe double click later on the methylation stuff. I just did my methylation sequence the first time. So I haven't gotten all the data yet, so I can't talk about it too much because I don't know even my own view yet. But so how do you find Elo today? You can go to elo.health on the web, and we are of course on the social Instagram elo.health, and also Facebook and LinkedIn and elsewhere. Today, what we are doing, we are still a fairly small company. We are getting the first thousands of members to sign up in the US. As I said, we are coming alive in New York sometime this year, but we are available in every other state right today. So you can sign up today. You can get going in a matter of a day or two, getting your biomarker kit at home. You can then do the finger prick and get properly going. Today, because we are still early, we are talking to people like you and the listeners here, and we're trying to get the right people to sign up to Elo, to work with us together, to make it amazing service all the time. And to make it easier for you, we are offering a very special discount in the beginning, where we offer a free month in the beginning, free biomarker test for anyone who's signing up, I think in the first half of 2022. And this is an offer that is not going to be there for a long time, and it will give you ability to see your biomarker data from the convenience of your home. And we are testing 12 biomarkers, your lipid panel. Think about cholesterol, LDL, HDL, triglycerides, VLDL, A1C for diabetes marker, vitamin D, vitamin B12, and also ferritin. And we take inflammation seriously, as you heard in the beginning. That was one key thing we measured with my wife. We are testing homocysteine for inflammation to really understand how your body is doing. So that's the package that you can start with. If you don't like the results, if you have nothing to fix, you can always cancel and not continue. So we make it very, very easy and seamless for you to get started.
Okay. Wow. That's amazing. Okay. So, so it's elo.health, elo.health. And guys, all those links will be in the show notes below. And if you use, I think it's promo code NAT, NAT, you get that free month. And your free that first initial blood work done. Right. Okay.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Well, Ari, this has been a great conversation. I knew it was going to be after we spoke the first time, and I really enjoyed speaking with you. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and thank you for taking on this project. I think that it's an amazing thing that you're doing, and every person that gets on board will be a happier, healthier person.
Hey, thank you so much, and great work on educating us mere mortals about these topics.
Oh, I'm just following you guys. Thanks.